College radio, to me, is being able to play whatever I want, being able to introduce new music or rarely heard music to an audience that is listening to the radio because they want to hear music more than just to have something on in the background. So to some extent, I guess it's, it's an educational mission. But it's also fun because you can do whatever you want. There's no restrictions. You're not bound by any kind of commercial considerations. If anything, the stereotype of college radio is, this anti-commercial thing.
Well, I'm all wound up, so turn on the radio. Just can't stop, turn on the radio. Tune in, baby, turn on the radio. Oh, bless me, baby, and turn on the radio. I can't stand still, can't shake your feet. I can't sit down when I feel the beat. You know it's in your soul. All you need is rock and roll. I'm all wound up, so turn on the radio. Just can't stop, turn on the radio. Tune in, baby, turn on the radio. Oh, bless me, baby, and turn on the radio. I can't walk out there on the street. Pull me around and everyone I meet. Give me one more song, all my troubles will be gone. I'm all wound up, so turn on the radio. Just can't stop, turn on the radio. Tune in, baby, turn on the radio. Bless me, baby, and turn on the radio. Tune in, baby, I'll kick your ass.
My name is Jon Bernhardt. I do a radio show on Friday mornings called The Breakfast of Champions. The Breakfast of Champions is on Monday through Friday from 8 to 10 a.m. I do the Friday edition. Last June, I celebrated my 25th anniversary on the show, and I'm still going strong.
College radio to me is a place where people can hear new bands and stuff they might not hear on regular radio, and a place for local bands to get their voice out and to get their music heard.
My name is Brokaw. I am a musician. I play primarily doing solo records and performing solo instrumental and vocal music. I play in a couple of bands as well. Right now I play in a band called The New Year and another band called Dirt Music. And I do some work accompanying other people. And I've been making records and touring around the world since 1990. And well, I was always aware of how important college radio was for getting this type of music, or what at least in my case would loosely be called indie rock music. How important college radio was in getting that music on the radio at all in the States.
I think college radio, as it exists right now, is extremely valuable because it allows music to be heard that might not ever get heard on commercial radio stations. Commercial stations have tightened up and narrowed their focus to the point where there's so much good music out there that just doesn't get heard.
You know, I'm always really happy when I hear good music on the radio, because you often don't. So my sense is that college radio has always added positive things to the spectrum.
Throughout my whole history working in radio, which goes back to the 50s, there was always a sense that there was something else going on that was non-commercial, that was alternative. The effect that alternative radio may have had on what we were then doing on FM in the late 60s and on into the 70s, yes, we were always, I think, aware of the existence of alternative kinds of radio, such as the Pacifica stations of non-commercial radio, college radio. There was a whole area of radio that had started out as strictly educational radio in terms of licensing and formats, and that goes back much further. but those had sort of turned into the only place you could hear folk music, or the only place you could hear jazz, or the only place you could hear classical music. And part of my background had been in working with those kinds of music on these FM stations. I didn't do college radio because I didn't go to college, but there was always a sense that there was something else going on there. And I think a lot of us tried to bring that kind of sensitivity into it. I know, for example, a number of disc jockeys who wound up doing alternative FM programming had also done college radio, and they had brought that idea, that alternative attitude with them into doing this new mainstream kind of radio.
I think when you're talking about public radio and college radio, anytime you're talking about non-commercial radio, you start to get into conversations about mission. And is there a mission that non-commercial radio stations have? Commercial radio stations, their mission is to build ratings, to have an audience, to sell advertising. For non-commercial stations, is there a mission to provide programming that's an alternative, that's not available? Is there a mission to just be entertaining? Is there a mission to just be a means of self-expression for whoever's on the air? And I think that this is something that probably all non-commercial stations wrestle with in some way or another.
I like the fact that it gives the smaller stations a voice.
I started in college radio in 1978 at Oberlin College, and I went into it with the idea that I wanted to be a DJ as a career. So one of the first things I did when I got to Oberlin was I went to the radio station and found out how to get involved, and pretty much spent almost every waking moment there for the next 4 years. When I got out of college, I realized that I wasn't going to have a career as a DJ, that radio had changed to the point where, commercial radio had changed to the point where to do the kind of radio I wanted to do, you couldn't get a job doing it. And also I just didn't really have the talent for it. So I realized my career was going to be on the production side, off air.
Hey, you know what time it is now?
Time to power walk.
Have you got a Mercedes?
No, we saw that. Take more of your car.
I was feeling pretty Christian.
If you've ever seen the television show WKRP in Cincinnati, that was the world of commercial music radio back in the 1970s on into about the middle of the 1980s. And that's when things started to change somewhat. Now radio does not reflect that at all. But back in those days, back in the 70s and early 80s, we as the air personalities could choose which music we wanted to play, when we wanted to play it. We could develop our own show clock. We didn't have a station clock that everybody had to follow. There was a lot more independence, a lot more latitude in terms of the creative choices that you had. You weren't reading liners produced by some corporate regional program director out of an office in New York somewhere. We were doing it all.
I worked at a college radio station at Oberlin College for 4 years. Working within the pop music department, which was essentially rock music. And at least at the time, for me, I was mostly interested in punk rock. Certainly, I had the sense when I was DJing, you know, I would get calls from people, not just on the campus itself, but in the towns surrounding Oberlin College, in Elyria and different parts of Lorain County. People would call and say, I can't believe you're playing this Flipper song. This is incredible. Everybody here at the factory is totally psyched that you're playing this. And so that felt great. And there was definitely an interest in reaching out to the community in a certain way. I think the sense that we weren't just sort of entertaining ourselves, but that we were trying to entertain and offer interesting programs to the community at large.
College radio is kind of like when you have the ability to educate and entertain at the same time. You're using a college campus to get information out, but as well you have new music, you have current events, campus news that you want to share.
you have the ability of college radio, unlike commercial radio, to actually have a show of your own.
College radio and community radio is the most, it's a really exciting environment to get started in, because it's a really low-risk, high-reward kind of environment. You can really try out a lot of different voices, a lot of different styles, and figure out what fits you without risking losing your job.
Yeah, so we had sports bits, and now it's time for weather, because that's the way that it goes here on All Independent Radio. We have weather for you. So in Boston right now, it's not too bad, but it's not going to be as cold as Moscow, Russia, which this is a segment where I like to, say where I would rather be, but I wouldn't rather be there, honestly. I wouldn't rather at all. But the reason why I mentioned Moscow, Russia is because there is a news story that I want to touch on after we're done with weather.
I started getting hooked on this new college thing because the students were so enthusiastic. They weren't ego cases like I had to deal with in the industry. They weren't a bunch of prima donnas and stars, but I'm as guilty as the next person for having that attitude when I was in the business. I just found the students' attitude so refreshing and their creativity just invigorating, and ended up getting deeper and more and more deeply involved in college broadcasting. And now I'm chairman of the Intercollegiate Broadcast System. Let's go ahead and plan to start the first session, say in the next 5 to 10 minutes. We'll just sort of wander toward the rooms you need to be at. We may get started a couple of minutes late, but we'll be just fine. But welcome everyone, glad you're here. The Intercollegiate Broadcasting System is the oldest and largest academic broadcasting group in the world, basically. We are 70 years old this year. We represent stations in Washington legislatively. We're currently involved with a lawsuit in the 5th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals against the Sound Exchange and the Copyright Royalty Board. We're trying to keep royalty rates for streaming music low. We're backing the low-power FM bill that is now in Congress. We're officially on record as being in favor of that. It's a bill that would open up more slots for low power, 10 watt and 100 watt little FMs that churches could use, community groups could have their own radio station, schools and colleges could have their own small power radio stations. What we see is this bill will open up the airwaves to the voice of the real people, not just the corporations that happen to own media. So college broadcasting it's changing. It's mushrooming. The number of stations starting now is growing by leaps and bounds. We're getting about 1 to 2 startup stations that IBS is advising every month.
8 seconds, stand by. And we're back here on IBS Palooza with Mina, Vanessa, and Sarah. And we've got Big East in the house.
Part of what makes the media scenery right now so interesting is because it's so different. It's evolved into a multimedia thing where people probably are listening to broadcast radio less because you can listen to stations like us. We're web only. We're on the World Wide Web, which gives us probably some limitations on who can listen to us, but not a lot. But people can listen to us all over the world. We get, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 hits a week from people literally all over the globe. And we can map them, we can see where they are, and we can even try to, if we have any foreign language abilities, we can say hello to them in various languages. So it gives us a whole different perspective, and it changes the focus tremendously. Plus people are listening to music on iPods, on iTunes, they're listening to all these different ways of getting news, information, and music that broadcast radio, frankly, is kind of lagging behind right now. And so that's another way that what we're doing perhaps is looking ahead into what the future really holds, that broadcast radio may become just a matter of putting out traffic reports and may become less relevant. It may be already doing that.
The internet and places like MySpace and YouTube, I read articles where they say that those things are sort of replacing radio for lots of particularly young people in terms of how they listen to music and where they listen to music. I still like listening to the radio and sort of and you know, keying into different people's shows and sort of expecting that a DJ whose work that I really like and really trust is going to bring me something that I haven't heard before, and will bring new things or old things that'll surprise me.
Well, everything's driven by technology. I mean, and I think so much has changed because of it. Not just the obvious stuff. I mean, when I started, we were playing all vinyl, you know, and we had tapes that we would play. We'd have reel-to-reel tapes that we would play. We had cassettes. And obviously everything now or almost everything is digital. We have CDs and MP3s and things like that. I mean, so that drives things. But also, the internet has made music in some ways easier to find, but in other ways there's so much more stuff that people are putting out. There's fewer filters. It used to be if you wanted to put out a record, you know, you have to go through a record label. You know, people did the DIY thing, but there were a lot of hurdles to that. And these days there's like zero hurdles. I mean, you burn a CD, you slap a cover on it, and you can send it to a radio station. So it's easier to find music because of things like the internet and the fact that it's easier to make it for people. But at the same time, there's a lot more out there. So the fact that there's fewer filters makes it more of a challenge in some ways. There's a lot more stuff to go through. I find that I just don't, you know, I just don't have time to listen to everything I would like to listen to, which is a shame, but I just think it's physically impossible. I
hear about new things all the time, and I think it's amazing that I can go on the internet and hear something pretty quickly. And that's, if people want to hear my music that way, that's great. It's you know, my stuff is out there for everyone to hear on MySpace and YouTube and things like that. None of us are entirely certain how that has affected record sales. We all know that record sales are down, and that's at least in part because of the proliferation of downloading and just the outright hatred of CDs that has developed, that has blossomed like a flower in the last couple of years. People are just so done with CDs.
Technology has also made the playing field so much bigger for people to get involved. And I see that in the music we get on Car Talk. A lot of the music that we get, we play car-related songs every week on the show. And a lot of the music we get now are things that people can record at home on their computers using GarageBand that sound actually pretty good. It's not the sound of 25 years ago that you'd get of somebody playing in their basement and recording it on a cassette. People are able to record stuff that sounds good. And I think that that's great. I think that having the technology available to people and letting people get involved and letting people do stuff it's just, the more people who are doing things, who are creating things, who are working with it, the more opportunities there are for great stuff to come out of it.
Now I have been, and I feel I'll always be like a burst of light that comes in night and crashes to the sea. Oh, and everything must have a place to live in harmony. And the only way to live today is free. And it's gonna snow.
About 10 years ago, I helped to take the college where I was teaching at the time, their radio station, to the internet. Only one other college had done internet-only broadcasting up until that point. Now, there are literally thousands of internet radio stations. At colleges, there are hundreds of them that are internet-only. Internet listening, as I had mentioned, has grown by about 24 million listeners in the last year alone.
I honestly don't know what the future of radio is, because I look at the way that listening habits have changed, the way that more and more people aren't listening to radio stations, they're listening to radio shows. And if that show can come to them via a podcast that they can listen to, that they can download and listen to anytime they want, then that's how they're going to get it. And I think that radio, including public radio, was really unprepared for the technology and is trying to catch up with it. And I don't know actually how they ever will.
Radio's future is in its past. And by that I mean radio has to go local again. It has to start serving its local community rather than trying to do things on a national basis and sounding like every other station on the dial. It's not a matter of is radio going to survive. Radio is going to survive. No medium has knocked off another medium in the history of modern communications. I mean, when radio started, newspapers did not go away. When television came out, radio did not go away. It had to adapt.
The future of college radio right now looks very bright, and I think there's a good reason for it to continue to do whatever it does, because college radio, for example, also isn't just music or playing the latest, popular tunes or cutting-edge music or different kinds of music formats. It also is news and information. And if a good college radio station would be in sync with blogs, with a college website should probably have a blog attached to it so people can talk back and forth. There's all these tweeter your requests or whatever. There are all these different ways of using the media to communicate back and forth. I think, if anything, college radio may be entering into an era of more relevancy, partly because you don't have to have a broadcast license to be in that communications web. That's what's really cool.
College radio's future is really quite interesting. The possibilities of cross-cultural education, of getting a world reach for your school so people can know of your reputation, of what you offer in terms of academics, it's limitless. It's one of the most exciting times, personally for me, that I've ever been involved with. I was involved with commercial radio during the period of time when FM took over in popularity over the AMs. So that was sort of a new renaissance of radio, and now we're in another one with the internet, especially on the academic level, because we can do so many things now. College radio and high school radio especially are going to grow because broadcasting on the internet is fairly cheap. It doesn't cost a lot of money, and if we can keep the record companies out of there with their greedy demands for royalties that would put these stations out of business, most every school will have the capability of having some sort of a broadcast operation.
I think the future for college radio is pretty strong. I think it's still, with the exception of the stations that are on the web, the ones that are still broadcasting, they're a part of what you might consider an archaic and old medium, but they are still doing something that is fresh, and that does point to, I think, a future that will see college radio around for a long time.
These wild, crazy dances, they do something to me inside.
Oh yeah, it's the Pontoon Palace, coming at you live from Memorial Drive every Thursday morning from 6 to 8, with your genial host, Rich Pontius.
Why? Because it feels so goddamn good.
You feel like a splash of fuzz along with your acoustic minor note chords, country fried rock, neck-snapping solos, and trippy female folkies, then you'll love the Pontoon Palace. Here indeed, there's a beard in every show. So get on board the Funkadelic Railroad and tune in to the Pontoon Palace every Thursday.
Just before 8 o'clock from MIT, this is Wmbr in Cambridge. We are first on your FM dial. We welcome once again to the Breakfast of Champions.
cold.